All right, I'm going to call the meeting of the Essex Junction City Council to order for April 15th, tax day. In case anybody forgot, go pay your taxes. So first item on the agenda is any agenda additions or changes, and I do have one, which is we are going to remove what is now consent item 6C, the recreation software contract, and we're going to make that item 5F in the business items, and then we'll move the executive session to G. Any other additions or changes?
Not for me.
Okay, because we made that change, I do need to entertain a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
I will so move.
Can you get a second? I'm just gonna arm wrestle over it.
No.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, that was unanimous, so I don't need any. He's public to be heard. All right. Anybody in the room? George, come on up.
George Dunbar. I'm happy you took that action because I was going to ask you to do it anyway. So I do have a lot of questions about the contract, and I don't know if you want to. I'm going to throw them out here now. You can do it when you get to the business item or talk to me at that point. But
Okay.
I just wonder who the current provider is for the current recreation management software that we have. How much is it costing us in FY26? Did we follow the bidding process of the city when we took the current provider into place in FY26? And was the competitive bidding process followed for the proposed change that that's being brought forward to you tonight? I'm assuming, since this has probably been in discussion for a while, is there a line item in the FY27 budget that covers the $65,000+ in costs? I didn't see it there, so those are my questions. And that's the only thing. I just want to try to get those answered.
Are you gonna stick around, or do you want to?
Yeah, no, I'm gonna
Okay.
stick around.
Okay,
Thanks.
cool. I wrote them down, but if
Yeah.
we don't cover them, just
Sounds good.
hit me up.
Yeah, thanks.
All right, anybody else? Anybody online? All right, I'm not seeing any hands online, so we'll move on to business item 5A, which is discussion of Green Mountain Transit, potential elimination of the number 4 service, and we have Clayton here with us.
Good evening, everybody. Clayton Clark, General Manager for Green Mountain Transit. Thanks for having me. Although I can tell you that this is not the type of meeting that I like to attend, because I don't like to talk about the potential of reducing service. We would prefer to be doing the opposite. And so I want to provide just a few minutes of background, but I suspect that you all are probably pretty well versed of why we're here. But the Essex Circulator, as it's called now, and its various iterations for the last decade, has been on the GMT's report card in the wrong way. And so the State of Vermont Agency of Transportation scores every single fixed route, transit route in the state. And they provide a score based on economic efficiency. And for the past 10 years, the service that we've had in the Essex Junction and the town of Essex, and previously when it connected to Williston, was determined to be financially inefficient. And so for 10 years, it's been on VTrans's list of routes that should be eliminated or modified. And so when we look at the most recent report, the average cost per ride for our urban bus system is about $7. And so that's the total cost to GMT. And the cost per ride for the number 4 in its previous form was $28 per ride, so 4 times the price. And to give you an idea of how much an outlier it is, the next highest is half the amount at $14 per rider. GMT is facing I don't want to say unprecedented in our history, but very likely, I'm sure it's the largest deficit that we've ever faced since coming about in 1973. We know that we're about $2.5 million in the hole, or we're projected to be $2.5 million in the hole for fiscal year 28. For fiscal year 27, we are about $500,000 in the hole, and reducing this service will provide us with a net savings of about $112,000, and so that's why we're considering it. The board will be considering the action at their meeting next week, and one of the things that we will need to work with the city and the town on if the service is eliminated is how we want to handle the ADA service. And so folks may recall that folks who are unable to use fixed route transit because they have a disability are able to receive our paratransit service that we contract with SSTA with. And so one of the things that we would probably suggest is having a period of time for people to adjust, where if the service were ended, that we would continue to have the ADA service, and we'd want to talk to you about how long that should be and the potential costs associated. And then the last thing I want to say is that I am actually more hopeful about the number 4 now than I was a few weeks ago. And the reason why is that the current state T-bill includes language that would alter GMT statute. And right now, in order for us to collect our local funds for our service, we must go through our formula for assessment. And that's what we come here and we give you your annual assessment, and I talk to you about the reasons for the changes. And but our statute limits us to accepting our local funds through that formula. The challenge is that means that any type of service that is not super efficient then ends up weighing down the whole system because the formula was built, to be a collective revenue generation source for all 8 members. What the T-bill will do is will allow us to collect money outside of the formula for assessment. And so when I mentioned earlier that it would be about $111,000 worth of savings, that's from personnel costs and gas, not from the overhead savings like my salary or our website and insurances and all that stuff. That's just the true cost. So what that means is that I'm hoping that the board will include in their in their motion next week, that if they do decide to eliminate the service, that they authorize me to enter into an agreement with the Essex school system, potentially Essex Junction, and the town of Essex to see about raising local funds to cover the cost, and whether that would retain it in its existing full day or whether a partial day, would basically be how that would be negotiated. And so we have talked a bit with the school. They do seem to be very interested and motivated in keeping that as a service for their students. So my hope is that we would be able to come up with a pathway that will retain some level of service for there. But mostly I wanted to be available to you all to answer your questions, and so that concludes my remarks, and we'll do the best I can to respond to your concerns.
Any questions for Clayton? Go ahead, Lincoln.
Thanks, Clayton.
Thank you.
I'm wondering what the numbers are. You talked about the financial efficiency of Route 4.
Yes.
But can you talk about the decline in actual people who ride the bus? Like what is the average number of riders on that bus?
So I can tell you that it's measured in the hundreds, where most of our routes are measured in the thousands. And instead of hazarding a guess, what I could do is send to Regina exactly what those numbers are, have been for so far this fiscal year. And what I can tell you is that it's been averaging 4 to 5 boardings per circle. So that's, obviously not.
Per entire circle?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. And that's what's really driving the cost per rider.
Is there an indication of which stops are the most heavily used?
Interesting that you mentioned that. We just were able to get some new data that we have a new dashboard that's out that shows what we did is we took our GPS information from our bus and then the payment time information so that we could match those two up. And we hired a new data analyst that has got much greater capacity than we've had in the past. And so for the first time, we're able to really see at a stop level at least the boardings. We don't have the folks getting off yet, but we have the boardings. And so we can, what I'll do is include it in that link, or included in the message to Regina will be a link to a map that you'll be able to look at where all of the boardings are along that route.
That would be interesting.
Yep.
Yeah. And can you remind me, please, how far out into Essex town does Route 2 is it 2 or 10 that comes through here is one of the most popular routes?
Number 2 comes out. It's our second most popular, and it goes to the Amtrak. One of the things that we did discuss at our public meetings and with our surveys is if there would be interest in having the number 2 extend out to Essex Experience if the number 4 were to be eliminated. And so I think that is definitely something that we'll be looking at if the 4 were to go away.
I'm glad to hear you say that because I remember probably 5 or 7 years ago when you were considering eliminating a route that went out to the Essex Experience. There was 30 or 40 people in this room upset about that.
Oh, yes.
Because that Route 15 corridor from here to the Experience is a big job, a commute.
Yes.
And people were very unhappy about that. And so I would be concerned that we would be losing that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's probably the most well-attended public meeting that GMT has ever had, and people are still traumatized about it. And
Welcome to our world.
Exactly. And so I think that the people that attended that night probably got 5 or 6 years of extra service just because of the making GMT gun shy for that.
Well, I think that indicates, though, just how incredibly important GMT is to folks being able to get to their jobs and their doctor's appointments, et cetera.
I think you're absolutely right. And the thing that, so the first public meeting that we had to discuss service reductions, one of the service reductions that was on the list was a single run that connected the south side of Burlington to the downtown transit center, like at 6:15 in the morning, and it only averaged 3 riders. And so I'm looking at this thinking, oh man, this is going to be the least controversial of all of our, things that we do. The very first person who spoke at that meeting was one of those 3 riders who talks to us about how his day will be so much more difficult with the connections if that is lost. And that really taught me more than anything that we measure our bus's performance based on the number of people that are on the bus. But for the people who are on it, whether it's full or they're the only ones, it's their most important service.
Exactly.
And so I think that certainly when I was here last week in this room at our public, I think it was last week, with the public meeting, it was only a few folks that were here, but it was very clear that it was important to their lives. Yeah. And so that's certainly something that weighs on me.
I appreciate that. I just have one more question that's separate from that topic. You were talking about your board next week is going to discuss giving you additional authority to, I'm assuming, bill outside of the municipal assessment process.
Yes.
So are you saying then, and that you wanted to talk to the town and to the city and to the school district?
Yes.
So are you saying then that the possibility of keeping Route 4 could depend on EWSD, Essex Town, and Essex Junction paying an additional $112,000 approximately dollars a year just for that one route, in addition to the assessments we're already paying?
Correct. Yes. And so obviously that is a big financial contribution. And that's why I would probably not suspect that you all would want to do the full day of service, but maybe target where the school especially thinks that it would be most useful for their students. And so my guess would be that unless you all have some hidden reserves, that you would probably want a modified or reduced schedule.
Can I just ask a clarifying question?
Sure.
So part of our assessment right now is tagged to the number 4
Yes.
existing.
Yes.
And so when you talk about the 111, 112 that you would need to raise, are we essentially considering a portion of our current assessment that pays for the number 4 as potentially helping with that? Or is it all in addition to what we pay now?
And so when I say that there would be 111K in net savings, that would be because we would have less income from your assessment, because we would remove that portion of your assessment.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay.
Any other questions, Marcus?
So first off, just so you know, the link is in the packet on page 3, so you can find the link to the dashboards and
Okay.
you can see the numbers. I think, I don't know that I have a real question on this. I just want to acknowledge the fact that, look, I continue to feel your pain, but I'm so glad that you're there as advocate for this. But at the same time, it is hard to look at this map and see that there's probably 7-8 stops in the city. And then there's about 22 stops in the town. You know, not knowing how this is going to kind of slice and dice in order to figure out who is going to pay what for what and
Yep.
what that's going to look like, I think that brings up a lot of concerns for me in the future. Obviously, there's still some decisions that need to be made. You know, I know that busing generally, not just public service, but the school bus service in this area has been a problem for years. I'm not sure how we particularly solve this problem unless we get a gift from God of a lot of cash.
Yeah.
So, it just hurts me to see this because I do think about the people who are going to be impacted and struggle to get to and fro. And especially those seniors who rely on that special assistance that they can only get because they're just close enough to a particular stop.
Yes.
So I think we're going to need more discussions around this in the future to really
Oh, yes.
figure out what we need to do for our community. But I think a key piece of that is understanding that ridership at those stops, potentially even who that ridership is, I'm going to assume. You know, are they students? Are they seniors? Are they, just so that we can try to understand the impact and then try to mitigate the best we can.
Very happy to report that we're doing our next rider demographic survey starting next month, so that we will be able to have fresh data on exactly who is using the service. My impression is that it is primarily students that are using it now. What I can tell you is that you're absolutely right that a majority of the route operates in town of Essex, and that's reflected in the different contribution levels between the city and the town. And so the contribution level for the city is lower than it is for the town, reflecting that. And something I also just want to mention on a personal note, the last time I was here, I had submitted my resignation, and Marcus, you had said some very nice things, and that was part of what, led me to decide to stay. And so I'm not departing GMT. I've rescinded my resignation, and happy to continue to do the work.
Thank you. I appreciate that a great deal.
I'm just going to ask one question. I don't necessarily need an answer to it tonight. I just want to know the implications of a reduced route as it would relate to then the availability of the SSTA rides.
And so typically the SSTA service is available at the same time that the routes are available. So that would be something that we would want to consider if it was only going to be, say, operating from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. and then again from 2 to 4, whether we would want the ADA service to match those times or to be connected during the middle of the day. And that's something that I would definitely want a conversation with you all about.
Thank you.
Brian?
Appreciate it, Clayton. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any public comment? Not seeing any. Thanks, Clayton.
Thank you.
Look forward to hearing from you soon.
Before you go, you did have a public hearing here last week.
Yes.
There's still more to come, or is there?
The last one of those was actually a tabling at the Waterbury State Office Complex today. So yeah, we wrapped
Perfect.
those
I
up.
knew it was, I didn't realize it was today. I thought it was tomorrow.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
your time, Clayton.
Have a good night. All right, 5B, Tree Advisory Committee brief to the council. Come on up.
Two partners in crime here, Warren Skinner, who we're...
Silent one.
Yeah. Oh, no, he's not. And we're very fortunate to have him as a resident and all of his experience in Burlington for 30-plus years as the city arborist there. So we count on him as our tree warden a lot. I'm not sure how you'd like to progress. I'd sent out the annual report back in February, which has comments on the work we've done over the past year, and I can go through that again. I can leave it open for questions, and I can tell you what we've got going for this year. So I can just run through some bullet points of last year and then maybe go to the other.
Yep, I think that makes sense. We've got this, you said this is from February, what's in the packet?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep, so we have that and maybe just the kind of the highlights and then a couple of
Sure,
highlights for
yeah.
what's going on in the future, and we'll throw some questions at you.
Okay, sounds good. So last year we put in about 40 trees. We did receive a grant, and that was the final planting for ash remediation, and then we put in about 25 of our own trees. So, and it was a challenging year, if you can remember, back in probably the middle of July, we started to have no rain. So some of the trees suffered, especially the ones that were planted along the Crescent Connector. Soil conditions were not the best there, probably should have been. This is what the contractor put in. Maybe done a few more amendments and other things to it to have a little better water holding capacity. So we're hopeful that they're going to survive and not create a nightmare of having to replant those trees again. Time will tell. We'll know more in another 3 months or so. We are still growing almost all our trees at the Branch Out Burlington Nursery. As I've said before, it's a great process. It's an opportunity for volunteers to get involved, and we're able to produce a tree that's probably a third the price of if we were buying them off from wholesalers. And this marks our 5th year of doing that. Continuing the work down in what I call Asheville. And we have removed, interplanted, and gone back, so we have a little bit of a reprieve this year. But we're already starting to see the signs of the demise of a lot of the trees on the private property. And residents are starting to take action and remove them. We're hoping that we're going to be able to maybe offer some trees on those to those residents. It's probably not going to happen this year, as we've already got things called for. So that will be ongoing. We did our usual Arbor Day events at schools, involving, and did it at 2 schools this past year, and that was a great success. We were awarded our 11th year as a Tree City USA, so we're doing good work in the eyes of others. And we're trying to do more with the Planning Commission and Development Review Board. We're contacted about where our expertise might be needed, and have been working with them. And I suspect we'll be doing a lot more as we go through the potential new comprehensive plan, land development code, and the move to some form-based code there, where I see is some potential real opportunities, and maybe big changes in how landscaping is done in the city. I think it's been kind of I'll say a dismal failure in the fact of how it is judged, where if you have a property above a certain amount of money, 3% of that budget is supposed to go towards landscaping, and that definitely is not happening. And I think we've learned some mistakes in terms of Park Street, that the raised platforms there and throwing some trees in there is just, it's a tree coffin. They're not going to survive. So we're not really doing justice to it, and there's money should be spent in other ways. And I'm hoping that with some of the changes that we can maybe expand the setbacks of some of these buildings that allow opportunities for more green infrastructure, and also a little bit more of a buffer for citizens walking on the road, because first and foremost, we're a walkable community, we're supposed to be, and we really have got to focus on those things. So, but that's not in our role, so we would encourage it. Let's see. And tell you what we've got going this year. We're planting about 25 trees along the village right-of-way. This is becoming, because of the design of, and the old design of the streets, we have very little room in the, and there are very few green spaces, that space between sidewalks and the street. And so we are having to plant in front yards now, and it requires a lot of work on our part to be knocking on doors. We may own 10 feet of the right-of-way on that person's property, but we don't want to put a tree there if they're not in favor of it. So we knock on doors 2-3 times to try and get them. So we're trying to come up with a better method to do this that doesn't take so much of our time to do it, and still be respectful for the residents there. We're doing our Arbor Day event on May 13th, and we're going to be planting trees at 2 schools and Maple Street Park. ADL students applied for a grant as part of their crew program to plant trees, and they asked us to help them. So we are helping them with that project. The second, we do our big planting at the Bob Nursery, that's Branch Out Burlington, behind Heritage Toyota at the UVM Horticultural Center. So we put in the small seedlings, then take care of them throughout the summer months, and in about 2 to 3 years, they're ready to go on the streets here or into the parks. We've got a tree walk at St. Michael's College scheduled for with Declan McCabe, who is an ecologist there, who is just a really exciting guy to be around. He lives and breathes the ecology of that area, and so we'll be advertising that to residents here. And we got our great tree contest coming up in the fall. So it's another area to try and engage residents of the work that we're trying to do. And yeah, so we'll be doing that, and then I think working more with the Planning Commission and Review Board over the future of the city and try and be engaged as much as we can. We have 6 members of our committee. We lost one member who was terrific, but she moved to Fletcher, and so we can't get her to come back. But that's what we're doing.
Great,
Yeah.
thanks. Any questions? Go ahead, Marcus.
I know it's not your purview, but I do really appreciate your expertise and your experience in this. So when you talk about 3% not being enough, what do you think that number should look like?
I don't think it should be a number. I think it should be a set of, there is a point, I think, how it was explained to me, in some communities that you have to reach a certain number amount, I'm not talking dollars,
Yeah.
but all these things that make up that matrix to do it. And that's what we should be shooting for. You know, at one point, there was talk about, and we had been pushing it because we've noticed in a lot of these projects, they're not spending the money that they should be. And there is we were hoping that a fund would have been set up that in lieu of the landscaping spending, that money would go to the city as a streetscape fund. And that has never happened. We were working, Robin, for a long time about this. And we're fairly vocal, but that was years ago. And but I think there's maybe a better method of doing it. To set some really good standards on it. Yeah.
That issue's been kicking around since I was on the planning commission.
Oh, yeah.
Back in the
I was
day. So,
Yeah,
it's definitely been around.
yeah.
Yeah, so I think the consultant has provided this other methodology
Okay.
that is in the planning commission's realm of looking through. And Nick, thank you for going to those meetings to start thinking through that and see what it looks like. But it's just a completely different system, separated from give us what you think your cost of construction is going to be and what that 2 or 3% equates to, and then it's just not a great system. So
And again, I don't know what projects you might be referring to, but are we enforcing this with our developers, or are they kind of getting away with it?
I cannot answer the question.
That's fine.
I think we're really completely on that one.
No, I totally understand. I just want to make sure that the process is being followed. And again,
From what I
we
see-
all have to play by the rules on this side of the table, and I would hope the people who sit on the other side are doing the same. So. Last but not least, I do just want to say again, Nick, you came over to my house. I was totally unavailable, but you talked to my wife because you're planting a tree. You're going to be planting a tree at my property, not just happened to be picked. It was not.
Check here from
Yeah.
you too.
But, like, if it's a problem, give it to somebody else. But no, in not just that experience, because she had a wonderful interaction with you, was really thrilled about the possibility of having a tree there, and not just from the fact that, there's a tree in our yard. It was about making our neighborhood look greener, look better, because it has been very sparse down our road. And she did not realize that we had this committee doing this kind of work. And when she had that interaction and then asked me many questions about it, she was just really excited. The city takes this kind of effort, and there are people who do this kind of work. because it does make a difference. Even if you're only able to put 25 trees in a year, it's a significant effort, and it's really appreciated, so thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions for Nick or Warren?
I spoke to Warren a little bit at the polls yesterday. I know they're working through that door knocking thing, so, you know, I'm sure they'll come to a solution there. And, you know, I always like to hear what you guys are up to. And I've lived in Marcus's neighborhood for 20+ years now, so I've seen all the trees come and go. including one on my property that had reached a point of deterioration that it needed to come down before it fell on someone's car. So it's nice to see that it'll be coming back around. So I appreciate all of your efforts, gentlemen. You're really invaluable to us as a community, and it's a wealth of knowledge, and we're extremely grateful for your time and effort.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
Appreciate
Thank
what you guys do as well.
Thank you.
It's,
And I look
Great
forward to
policy.
seeing whatever comes out and moves away from an arbitrary percentage to somewhere down the line.
There's lots of change coming.
Yeah. So thank you both. Thank
Thanks,
the entire,
guys. Good to see
the
ya.
entire committee, really. So,
Yep.
and I guess I'm sad to see that Andrea left, and maybe we could make her an advisor to the advisory committee. Is that out there at all?
We'll work on it.
All right. Thank you both.
All right.
all right, thank you.
Have a good night, guys.
Thank you.
All right, 5C, discussion and consideration of the new purchasing policy. So we have Jess online.
Yep.
All right. Good evening. Here with the long-awaited purchasing policy revision update for you. So I'll just kind of quickly run through some high points from the memo that's in the packet. This is a policy that we have had on the to-do list for quite some time now, with separation being completely done last year, and some federal and state regulations that have come down over the last 2 years. We were able to kind of take a look at where things stand today, assess some other model policies that are available to us. So I looked at VLCT's model policy, looked at 6 or 7 other communities, neighboring communities to us, and became very clear quickly that this was going to be a much smoother process to just redo the whole policy. There is a lot that has changed. There's a lot that's in our policy right now that's actually more appropriate for an internal procedure document. So one of the things that we've updated in this version that you have before you today is those procedural instructions are going to be removed and put into their own internal procedure documents. We've kept the language that is strictly policy related in this version. We have, I mentioned, lots of federal language that has changed over the last couple years. One of the biggest impacts being on the purchasing thresholds and those dollar amounts. So the chart that's in your memo basically shows you previously we had 6 different purchasing thresholds, varying levels, varying authorities. The federal requirement is for just 3 thresholds, and it's really just to simplify things and make this policy easier for everyone to follow. So we've moved to that model, and we also had decided to, and this was a VLCT recommendation as well, to mimic whatever is on the federal side, apply that to the purchases that happen with municipal funds as well. Again, it simplifies things for everyone. Right now, the current policy it feels like a constant circle that you're going in, because you're starting at one point and having to refer to 3 different other points in the policy to figure out what to do. So super confusing for staff. Regina and I struggle with it. So what you have before you today is a much simpler, efficient document for everyone to follow. The Code of Conduct section that exists today has been updated to the Municipal Code of Ethics as defined by state statute. And then there's also some updates to the language about the bidding process. So RFPs versus RFQs, what is required. And again, this is another area where the current policy has a lot of process documentation in it that we have pulled out. We're going to create a separate internal document and keep the language that is recommended by the federal regulations and also VLCT's recommendations. So those are kind of the high points. We also have had some questions and comments about the purchasing thresholds. So I just wanted to touch on those in a little bit more detail for everyone tonight. I think the biggest concern or comment that we've had is that the minor purchasing threshold is basically going from today $40,000 up to $75,000. The federal rule allows for that to be $150,000. So I kind of picked something that was like middle of the road. Comparing to other neighboring communities, their policies range anywhere from $10,000 to $100,000. And then also there are some policies that have no threshold identified. It's really, they state just what is within budget. So no specific amount. That number, it was just a thought to have a discussion on. Totally fine adjusting that as the council sees fit. And I think that was it. Regina, was there anything else that we've talked about that I missed?
I think that was it.
Okay.
So
Thank you.
just to be clear, Jess, the requirement from the federal perspective is the incidental, minor, and the major categories, but the amounts that are tied to those, we can change those.
Correct.
Okay.
Right. Yep, the incidental threshold, they recommend up to 15,000. Previously we had 10,000 for that purchasing threshold. I increased to 15 just because the cost of doing business is much more than it was back in 2018 when the original policy or the existing policy was adopted. So just factoring in a little bit of inflation in that first tier. And then the minor and major, obviously we can adjust. However, like I said, today the minor threshold would be at 40,000.
Change the minor to align with the current purchasing guidelines, which would give Regina what, 40,000 up to $40,000. Do you see any negative impact to you and your ability to run the city doing that?
I don't think so. It's the dollar amount we've been working with. It's fine. Jess did take a look at some of our invoices. A lot of the invoices that we see between 40 and 70,000, 40 and 75,000 really end up being components of much larger projects that you guys already did approve. So I think it would be fine either way. Later on in your agenda is an example of a software-based project, which is much more in the operational realm of things. And those on occasion can be more expensive. And they can sometimes be more expensive if we are trying to engage in a 3-year contract instead of a 1-year contract, because we get a better rate at a 3-year contract than a 1-year contract. But the majority of the time we are going to be prepared in advance to bring it through this process if we need to at over 40,000. But just the way of the world, we're starting to see more operational based things at that dollar amount. And it's, you know, one overarching principle in all of this that everybody should understand is we can't operate above budget on any purchases. We can, if we need to be operating outside of a particular general fund category code, we've got to come to you folks to do that. So, and you've seen as we bring different capital projects, if we need an amendment to the capital plan because we don't actually have the appropriate amount of budget set aside, we do that through all those same motions. So I don't feel strongly. I think 40,000 is fine. I think 50,000 is fine. I mean, but we can operate at 40,000 if it's where folks would like it to be.
So, looking at it myself and researching it, I would, I concur that it looks like the recommendation is in line with many other municipalities. But it varies wildly, so there's no kind of standard.
Yeah.
The one thing that kind of stood out for me, though, and I wondered about again, trying to create more transparency around this, understanding that, yes, we have a fiduciary responsibility at this table, but that has its limits because obviously in order to operate the day-to-day, we can't be in every single purchase decision that happens. We have to let some of that go. That being said, I did see the city of Burlington and other municipalities, some, not all, but there are some that have reporting that happens. So if you, in the case of the software that we're going to be talking about later, for instance, right? This would be something that would be publicly reported. Now, the city of Burlington seems to have a process by which that happens, so that way, publicly, it is seen that the city manager has written up signed a contract for X. It still has to stay within, they have boundaries for what that spend is. It still has to go to the council if it exceeds a certain limit. But there is this transparency that I don't think we have in our rules based on the reading. And I just wonder if that would help in some ways to have more transparency, more public insight, make the public a little bit more comfortable about it. But so anyway, I just wanted to put that on the table as a potential option or tweak to this.
Other questions?
Can I add?
Oh, go ahead,
something
Jess.
onto that? Sorry, just tag on to Marcus. So I totally understand what you're saying, Marcus. One of the things that we do have in place is that the warrant, so every AP check run that gets issued goes into the council packet. So you see every check that is cut by the city. So we do have that in place. I understand you're looking for something probably more specific and detailed for larger purchases.
Yes, but in that view, and yes, we see it every couple of weeks, and
It's my favorite part of the packet, I'm just saying.
George is one that you scan. I mean, this is one of those things that
brokerage.
we have seen this happen before, where we've seen checks cut for X dollar amount, and it's like, then you look at the description, it's like, what was that? What is this lining up to? And I think that's different than this that I'm kind of talking about. This is about entering into contracts or purchases that are handled by, I would probably say at the city manager level, not department head level. So those, sorry, the minor major thing, I still think is a little confusing because, but at the department head, I don't know, every purchase we don't need to know if they bought a stack of chairs for something. But you go into a $50,000 contract, if that's within the purview of the money that we allow, then that would be something that would be reported in some way. And again, I know the city of Burlington has something, but it is not that check run piece. I think that just will provide confusion. And I think if we can do it in a way that's simpler, it'll just be easier for people to find.
What about putting it in the consent? I mean, or the reading file, or I guess the reading file.
Yeah,
didn't
reading
wanna-
file would be more
File would be more-
appropriate if
yeah.
that's how we were.
Yeah,
I didn't want
It's
to
not our
define
fault.
it, so I wanted to give you, because I knew in throwing this
Yeah.
idea out, it would be something you'd probably want to walk away and kind of think about.
Yep.
So,
Fine.
No, I actually like this idea a lot. I haven't seen the Burlington dashboard, but I would like to do it. And I use that term dashboard intentionally because I don't think that Marcus is implying or that the information that he's trying to make easier to read and view for the public it doesn't exist, right? I agree. It comes in the packet, right? But I think all of us know the number of people that read the packet is less than 20. Right. So something that would be so I guess my question is this: if you were directed to generate a page that was updated whenever we spent over $50,000 or X dollars, right? Does the website vendor / design / staff have the technical expertise to pull that off?
I don't think it's about staff expertise. I think it's about system limitations.
Yeah, we would have to think about it. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, we just would have to think, whatever the direction is, we just would need some time to think through what we
Fair
can.
enough. I mean, but it's not hard, is it, just to, like, if I said, can you filter out this, with the check warrants for all checks over $50,000 or X dollars, whatever the dollar amount is, like, that's straightforward, right? It's converting it into a dashboard. That's the challenge, right?
Right.
Okay.
I understand and I appreciate it, and I think a dashboard is a potential way, but I think this is one of those moments where I would say staff probably needs just some time to muddle the idea and figure out how it, again, to fit it into your workflow. If it's, again, if you're in agreement, if it's something you can work into your workflow and it's something that we can deliver with whatever skill, whether it's internal or external. So, but, because again, I don't think we need to solve it right now.
So, there is a motion in the packet to approve the purchasing policy. So, would you be wanting to table this until we hear until they're able to noodle a little bit about that concept, or would you still be in favor of approving this?
I would suggest tabling because of the fact that I think if we can do some level of reporting, increase this level of transparency in some form, it then, I think, helps us get to a point where whatever that number is, that final range that we agree on, it's going to make it easier to make that decision. Because I totally understand, I could absolutely understand somebody saying, I don't want to change this, let's just leave it at 40. I can also understand, and look, the economies of scale, things have changed. I can totally understand increasing it, whether it's 50, 75, or whatever it is. But I think if we have a way to respond to the public and say, hey, we're going to, I think consent is fine, but sometimes that's also a place where I think things can kind of disappear. And if we can provide some level of transparency that gives the public more access to it, then it'll just make it easier to empower you better. I personally.
So, because this agenda topic is tied to the Amtrak agenda topic, my suggestion would be that if everything else, for all other reasons, we're good with this policy as it is, that, and you're more comfortable at 40, we keep it at 40 at this point, get this approved, and then we can take more time to think about more transparency if we were to shift that upper amount.
But could we not agree, because we're about to have that discussion on that other item, could we not just potentially approve that other item independently?
The purchasing policy is
A key
it goes with the Amtrak discussion is the point. That's why these two were brought together.
Okay.
So if we table that, then we've got some Amtrak issues.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, I was thinking about one of the other issues on the agenda. Yes, okay.
You're thinking about soft, yeah,
Yep.
it's not about
Okay.
that.
Okay, yep.
I'll just throw it out. I completely get and understand that we're talking in magnitudes of, you know, 12, 13, almost $13 million budget. But to the general person, when they hear $75,000 unchecked, they're like, eh. So acknowledging the fact that you've given the department heads essentially taken them from $10,000 to $15,000 in this proposal, I would then suggest that we take the 40 and make it 50, and there's a little bit more room in there, and we can deal with that as you've been used to dealing with it at 40, and it gives you a little bit more flexibility, and we go with that until we can. Is that?
I mean, I would be.
I mean,
I
I'm
don't know if
perfectly
you'll
happy to
comment.
leave it at 40 as well, but just, you know, I'm just thinking through recent increases in everything, you know, to give
Back-
them a little more flexibility.
Back to the issue, I'd be fine with increasing to 50, but I'm wondering if we could just approve the purchasing policy as amended, or whatever we decide to do, and ask that staff come back to the April 29th meeting, with a plan regarding the, transparency of contract purchases above whatever that, the major, you know what I'm talking about. Would that be, it's approved, but it's also like asking to do additional work on your side. Would that be sufficient enough for the Amtrak discussion if we did that? So the purchasing policy is good. We would
Yes.
approve it, but we would also say, but we still want this other thing and to come back to us in 2 weeks.
Yeah, I don't think,
Would you guys be okay with that?
I don't think you were proposing that, that you do not support the purchasing policy without more, like a simpler way to look at the big purchases.
He wanted to table it, which
Yeah, it
meant
was-
we weren't.
No, I understand, but I heard
Yeah.
you say that, not him, that's why I'm asking.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Okay,
No, I would agree. Yeah.
okay, then, yeah, no problem, and
Is there any other questions, comments about the dollar amounts and the purchase of?
Amber, I have a question
Yeah.
on clarification. So are you looking for, speaking to like the dashboard and more information on contracts, you're looking for that information on the minor level, right? That Regina has authority to approve? Because you're going to see everything else at the major level.
Yeah.
Okay, cool,
Yeah.
great.
I didn't have my thing next to me, but yes.
Yeah. No, just wanted to make sure.
The super astronomical, I don't know, whatever.
Yeah.
Elaine, any comments?
No, but
Anything else? I'll open it for public comment and then I'll come back and we can, I guess, finish the conversation. Public comment in the room?
I'll just make one.
Can you come up to the mic,
comment.
George?
Sorry. I had two comments. But, you know, like I said, I'm getting all the things.
I'll write them down.
I guess getting just back to the discussion that you're having about, it's in the warrants, it's available. And I think about our open source contract. That was several $100,000, but it's parsed out in checks of $5,000. So that clarity isn't there that you're discussing. And so I fully agree that I like the idea of some greater transparency, some way to show that, you know, we've gone through the process. It's a $50,000 item. You know, we've done the due diligence on competitive bidding and all those other types of things. So I guess that's what I'll just leave it at. So.
That one comes to us and we would have approved that particular
That particular
contract
one, you're right,
in that
but-
instance, but
But they are
understood what you're saying.
They are parsed out in monthly checks. So
Yes, yeah, there are definitely.
So they wouldn't be
Yeah.
visible from a warrant perspective.
Yeah,
If I can just clarify, are
Absolutely.
you talking about open approach?
yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, we 100% went through a full
I know.
procurement process
I
that
just-
was brought
I
to the
just-
council
I
for.
just-
The random
Yeah,
thing
I
he
think
thought
we
of.
just used it as
Yeah,
an example
yeah.
Okay,
of, you see
okay.
the checks come out in the
all
warrant
good.
over time.
Yeah, if I may, George, your point seems to be that the warrants would not show clearly for the public who is not used to reading the pages and pages of that data. For one reason is because they're monthly checks for annual things. That's your point, correct?
That's true, because they would be, they wouldn't show a $50,000 expense, they'd show, a $4,000
Yeah.
expense over 12 months.
Right.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Yeah.
And Jess, was that one when I was asking for some kind of data analysis before we went to the web, and I agree that it shouldn't be a prereq for this motion, but is that one of the challenges to which you were referring?
Yeah, because even if I were to run a check register report, for example, like you were talking about earlier, to show amounts over a certain, or checks issued over a certain amount, you're still going to have that same issue that we have with the warrants, because you're going to see individual check amounts, not an entire contract amount.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I think an effort to get a dashboard is going to result in a much longer conversation and may result in an investment in some software and then a person who knows how to collate the data and report it in a user-friendly way. I think while the concept of this transparency is important and a good thing to pursue, I would not want to delay approving this policy while we wait for that to happen, because it will develop into an 18-month-long project, I guarantee.
No, absolutely. And on that, and I agree with you wholeheartedly. In order to do it right, I would foresee the same thing. I'm not sure that it requires, I mean, again, we've talked about dashboards off and on for the last 3 years that I've been here as well, in use for all kinds of things. And so I think there will come a point that hopefully we'll have more of that kind of ability within the website. I don't know that this requires that. I mean, it could just be as simple as, I don't know, if it's a page with basically a Excel chart on it, that kind of lists like contract, date, here's the contract with whom, yada, yada. Basic stuff. So again, from an overall standpoint, I mean, this is how I'm thinking about it, but again, I want to leave it to the staff to kind of work through, but no, I agree with you, and I'm sorry that I forgot about the relationship with the Amtrak, because you're right. So, so with that being said, no, I don't want to hold this up for that so that we can have that Amtrak discussion. I just wanted, in thinking about it, I didn't want to force a change and then say, okay, well, here you go, we're going to force you into this, versus allowing you the chance to think it through. So
Sounds like a great topic for your next retreat.
Yeah, I mean, I think, so
Foreshadowing
to that point, you said bringing us back in 2 weeks. I mean,
Yeah.
that's probably not realistic.
I will entertain a friendly motion or amendment to that motion. I was just trying to get us to the point of
Yeah.
understanding the concept. So I mean, that's flexible, I think.
Yeah.
I didn't go to the folks online to see if anybody had comments online before I kind of wrap it up with us. I'm not seeing any hands though. So is it safe to assume that folks are okay with the language in the purchasing policy? Is there any changes that anybody asks, Brian?
I assume we're going to have the DEI portion of that discussion under the Amtrak item.
Yeah, so the purchasing policy that you have in front of you in this packet, we think is going to satisfy the Amtrak grant conditions as worded, what you've got in front of you for the purchasing policy. There are other policies we will talk about when we get into the Amtrak grant conversation, but we think how we have worded the purchasing policy, we will be okay.
Okay, I'll hold my questions on that part, not part until the Amtrak discussion.
Okay. So everyone's good with the language in the purchasing policy.
There's a question online.
Oh. Okay. Raj?
Yeah, just a quick question, I hope. Thank you. Can you describe briefly what's changed with that language to satisfy the federal government? Or I don't know if the DEI sections that you're talking about are in the purchasing policy, if they span this policy and later, but I'd be curious to hear articulated what we had to change to get this money, if that makes any sense.
the Amtrak discussion.
Yeah, I think the DEI stuff is the next topic of conversation. It's not the purchasing policy, but Regina can certainly correct me.
Yeah, but so I can answer that real quick to try to not get too far into the next conversation. But essentially, the page 15 in the full council packet includes the section of the purchasing policy that starts getting into the federal codes that we have to meet when we use federal funds. And a lot of that information is in federal law. When we jump over into the Amtrak conversation, we're going to start talking a little bit about executive order versus federal code. So basically, what we have done is we've tried to make the purchasing policy as flexible and all-inclusive as possible. And the statement at the top of that says, these are the codes and general standards that we have to adhere to unless otherwise specified in the grant agreement. So hopefully that helps. There are probably changes in federal code between our current purchasing policy and what is on the table right now, just because that was done in 2018, and a lot of these things change along the way. So we've got this as updated as possible, and it basically includes everything that could come into play. So we have not excluded any language in the purchasing policy, if that, I think, helps answer your question, Raj.
Thank you.
Okay. So, I'm gonna come back again. Is there any changes to the wording in the purchasing policy? Forget about the numbers for a second.
Okay.
I'm gonna deal with one thing at a time here.
No.
No.
Where do you
Okay.
go?
Numbers wise, I've heard incidental seems to be okay. I don't want to put words in anybody's mouth, but I didn't hear any changes to incidental. So minor seems to be where we're kind of wondering where we could go with that. And I heard changing it to 50, so decreasing it from 75. So Regina would have authority from 15 to 50 without council approval. Is there anybody that would be in favor? Does everyone seem to think, I mean,
You know, I appreciate what we're trying to accomplish with this change. Over the years, I found that staff has come to us to make changes to policies with very thoughtful reasoning behind why they've arrived at the new changes that they're asking us to approve.
Yep.
And
I do not have a problem with $75,000.
okay. Go ahead.
I was just gonna rebut that the reasoning for this one seemed to be somewhere between 50 and 150, so I picked something in the middle.
Yeah.
And our current policy has been at 40, it's at 40, it lives at 40, it has lived at 40. They're used to working at 40, but I want to acknowledge that it might be a slightly different environment than what has existed at 40. Otherwise, I would be completely in favor of leaving it at 40.
The
I would-
40 number was from 2018?
I'm sorry.
40 numbers from 2018?
At least.
At least.
I don't know if
It's-
it existed even prior to
Yeah.
2018.
It's pretty old. Yeah, I mean, I think the other thing I would just say to this is that, I don't think there's a lot of contracts that you're signing that are not coming in front of us at any level. I mean, I think it's, to me, the 40 to 75 is kind of arbitrary. It's probably going to be something that is an open approach contract or whatnot that is going to land in front of us anyways. So, and keeping in mind that we do have the future discussion about, is there a way to add some transparency to that in addition to what we already have? So, I mean, I would be okay with leaving it as presented, but.
I think as a practical matter, I would agree with the comments that have been made. I think gutturally, my first instinct was thinking about all the discussions we've had where we make this rough assumption around 100,000 is about 1% of our general fund. And it's like, okay, so we're giving authority over 0.75%. You know, it's like, okay. So kind of checking my gut on that, I think is a practical matter. I think I'm okay with this number being moved, so I'm okay.
Get somebody to do the motion? Ed?
I'll move that the city council approve the purchasing policy as presented.
I will second.
We want a friendly amendment to add the
Oh, yes.
piece about the transparency that we had, just with a different date.
Do we need it? Do we need it?
Or do you guys need it?
I don't think we need it.
Okay.
I think we can ask that separately, can we?
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Sorry. Okay, sorry, your second.
Mhm.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, nice, that passes.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. All right. D, discussion and consideration of the multimodal train and bus station improvements. I'm not reading all of that.
Okay. So you folks have seen this project all overall quite a few times. We are essentially at the stage of obligation. We already went through the process of doing some pre-authorization work. We've been working on the design of the project in order to achieve this level of obligation from the federal government. So with this stage of the process, there's some information in the memo from Chris to kind of just keep you up to date on all of those project pieces. Really, the only thing of concern from my end is really just being very clear with everybody about what the grant conditions are from this. And so this is page 21 in the packet. I have included condition 20.1 from the grant agreement itself. It is about a 100-page grant agreement. And so essentially this refers to Executive Order 14173. And it's really applicable to DEI initiatives and anti-discrimination laws. So really what this condition is asking us to say is that we provide equal opportunity as the federal law allows. It takes issue with DEI initiatives, diversity, equity, and inclusion, because there is an assumption under the current federal administration that those practices are not equal opportunity. So we have had many conversations with VLCT about this, and VLCT has been talking to many folks about this because there's a lot, and these things look differently depending on the federal grants that are coming down. The city attorney has looked at this, and really there is some statements in our existing policies that could potentially raise a flag of concern under this grant condition. FRA, the Federal Railroad Administration, who this grant is coming from, have essentially said a number of these different things are under litigation. So they can't necessarily give us very clear guidance on exactly what it is that we need to do. They also were clear to say that as of right now, there is nobody that they're aware of checking to ensure that this grant condition is being met. And in the grand scheme of things in Federal Railroad Administration projects, this one is probably fairly small. That said, we have to sign this grant agreement. And I think at the end of the day, once we've kind of looked at all these documents and what could potentially be flagged by either a federal audit or a interested citizen who wants to make sure that we're following everything correctly, we've identified in here all of the sections of our policies and procedure documents that could be at issue. My recommendation, after spending quite a bit of time thinking about all of this, is I would say a minor adjustment to our personnel regulations. Currently, our personnel regulations has a equal opportunity statement in it that you can find that on page 22 of the packet, bottom of this memo, on page 3. That statement is really the overarching policy in our purchasing policy about equal opportunity, and there is nothing wrong with that statement in light of this new executive order. The questionable statement is in the mission, value, and goal statement section that clearly highlights diversity, equity, and inclusion. The recommended change is really an art of wordsmithing. I don't think we are going to change our practice at the end of the day in terms of what we are actually doing. Certainly not in terms of what we do in terms of advertising for jobs or filling jobs. And so my recommendation at the end of the day is we make that one change. The other thing I do want to be clear about that change is the organizational values, mission, goal statements. There's 3 phrases, I might be getting them wrong in order, but they are also quite old. Staff can't remember exactly when those were put together, but we are right now working with Tabitha Moore on a whole staff-wide effort to redo mission, value, and goal statements. So I anticipate we will be having much more conversation on that whole section of the policy and really have an opportunity to get that to be what we want it to be. So yeah, then the other sections in here that I would recommend changing, and this is not a decision for the council to make, we would make these changes internally, are the statement that we include on our job descriptions and the statement that we include on our job advertisements. And essentially, we would refer back to the full equal opportunity statement that we do have in our personnel policy that we don't have to change. I hope that is making some sense. I know this is tough and uncomfortable and tough because I don't want to be saying to anybody that I don't want to be doing diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts. That's not our hope. And I think in practice, at the end of the day, that is a value. We are going to, but we are also, and I could say 100% in agreement, that we are here to serve every member of this community, period. And that is what we do. That is what we do in practice. And even with these changes, that is what we will do.
Thank you. Questions? Brian?
It seems like from reading the packet that you are recommending making these changes despite them conflicting with our values, because because the risk of not doing it is too high. Is that meaning we would lose $3 million? Is that a fair characterization?
I think that it's not just this $3 million. I think we are 1 year into a 4-year federal administration, and we are talking about potentially not using federal funds at all for the next 3 years. That, I think, could be tricky.
Okay. And did I say that? Did I hear you say that we were going to have a more lengthy and formal process about how to update these policies and procedures, soon, as opposed to, here's the thing. I really do not like this look. This is Columbia University folding, right? And that's what we're talking about doing. So I'm trying to get my head around, can we do this? And also, is my understanding, I think you mentioned this, that there's litigation ongoing about whether the EO is legal at all. So I would be super disappointed if we made a change to, which that is contrary to our values, for no reason, right? So if those lawsuits succeed. So I guess what I'm saying is, yeah, I'm trying to get my head around whether it's how likely it is that we're going to get caught, and how likely it is that we're going to lose, and multiply that times $3 million. So you're right to point out that it's more than this one grant. But yeah, I don't like the look that we're proposing, capitulating. Thanks.
Marcus?
Totally understand emotionally that it definitely feels that way. I think the characterization with Columbia is a little extreme in comparison. But that being said, trying to wrap my head, because I did have a resident talk to me today about this very specifically. And I guess it comes down to this question to help try to understand is, if we were to say no to this for whatever reason, and this project does not move forward, what is the impact to our community?
So I can say without a doubt, this project does not move forward without this $3 million. We are not going to be able to come up with that elsewhere. And, the benefit and the hope of this project is that it helps raise the look and feel of the downtown, and a pretty critical section of the downtown. And a facility that serves a lot of folks coming in and out of the city on the bus, on Amtrak. And, I've been clear before that this $3 million is going to basically get us a steel frame, which is very frustrating that that's all it's going to do. But it is going to get the station in a better looking place than before. And in theory, the more uplifting we do in our downtown here, the more valuable and appreciated everybody will feel of the community as a whole. That's the idea. I think it's pretty important. Yeah.
Yeah, I took it as wordsmithing, really, like that, to me, is how it resonated, is how I read it. Mm-hmm. It doesn't, again, change any of our practices. It brings them, so, it's really horrible to think this is, but, it's the cards we're dealt at the moment. Again, it doesn't change who we are or what we do or how we do it on the day-to-day, or the values that we bring to the table every day, or that the city institutes. And yeah.
Yeah, the edits that are being proposed do not change the fact that, in spite of the fact that diversity, equity, and inclusion are now bad words, doesn't mean that we're not going to continue to practice diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I think that the potential for revising this language again at a future time exists. And I will also just add a historical context that, I mean, this project has been,
Yeah.
I mean, I think it was one of the very first things that I learned about when I became a village trustee 12 years ago. So, and just a reminder that, you know, the funding that we got for this, that 3.7, or at least 3 of it, came from Senator Leahy himself. And he went out of his way to get it for us. And it is part of the vision of having being the first terminus after a train comes from Canada. Once they reestablish the Vermonter and the Montrealer, not the Vermonter, the Montrealer, and we would be the first stop after they open up their new, supposedly under construction customs office that would allow us. But at any rate, this was part of a much larger plan, and we really, multiple boards and multiple employees here at the city have gone through so much to make sure that this project happens, and I wouldn't want this small piece to be a hitch of it. So
Yeah.
I'm willing to make this small concession on language that could be changed again later in order to make that project happen.
Well, that I think is an interesting point, and why I asked about the review that's already forthcoming, Regina. What do you estimate the time frame for that process will be?
So specifically what we're updating is the mission, value, and goal statements. It currently lives in the personnel regulations. It's going to be until the fall, I would guess, until we have a...
And when would the U.S. government cut us a check?
We have to sign this.
On the assumption that we sign it today.
I don't know. I'm not sure how often the reimbursement is happening, but from my perspective, the commitment and the assurance that we are doing this correct is at the point of signing the grant.
Okay, thank you.
I'll open it up to public comment.
I can say something.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry you find yourself in this situation. I commend Brian on his statement. My worry is that you change things, you obtain the money, we're challenged, they try to draw it back, which we know has happened, and then where do we find ourselves? So, like I said, I'm sorry I find you guys in this situation. It's an unfortunate time in our country. But I'll leave it at that, so.
Thank you.
If in the unfortunate event that this is challenged in some way, our Attorney General that's her job, is to help defend us on stuff like this. So we would have substantial resources to fight this off, but it seems unlikely.
I think that the hope is that's why we're doing this, is to avoid the potential of even.
But you're compromising your value, is what you're saying.
Yeah,
In words.
Words.
In words, exactly.
Understood.
Mark has a comment.
Yeah, this is a question for the manager. Regina, this would affect all federal grants, if I'm understanding correctly?
So we know that this particular federal grant has this particular contract clause in it. We have reviewed our policies based on that particular clause. Depending on the variety of different federal grants, some of the agencies are rolling this out in different kinds of ways, reflecting on different kinds of executive orders. But I think the majority of the thought process is all typically the same. And I think the way that we're looking at this right now should be fine for all other federal grants, but we'd have to look at each of them as they come.
And the reason I ask is we have the Cascade project
Yeah.
rolling out
Yeah.
soon, and that's the LWCF, which is federally funded.
Yeah.
That was my,
Yeah,
Yep.
yep. Thank you,
That's a
yeah,
$500,000 grant, right?
what's that?
That's a $500,000?
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah. And without the grant, it wouldn't be possible.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
yeah.
Any other questions, comments online before I bring it back to us? All right, Brian, did you want to add something before I
Yeah,
entertain the motion?
I just did want to say, in we're all paying attention to the news. George's comments were appreciated. Thank you. Certainly by me, at least. I shouldn't speak for everyone else. The only question I have for the council is, have you noticed that when the administration asks people to back down, that they stopped? Thanks.
Does anybody want to read the motion?
I have it. I move that the city council approve the amendments to the personnel regulations identified herein and authorize the city manager to execute the Federal Railroad Administration grant agreement for the Essex Junction Multimodal Train and Bus Station Improvements Project.
You need a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any nays?
Nay.
Okay.
I
Motion.
didn't vote, and I'm
Oh,
sorry.
you abstained? Okay, I didn't.
No, I'll be
thinking
honest,
still?
I'm struggling with this because I honestly, I want to stand in no. I get the point on the Amtrak station, but at the same time, I'm less worried about Amtrak than I am some of the other projects that will come, like Cascade and things of that nature. And I don't know what those impacts look like. And I do appreciate the verbiage that's on here. And believe me, I trust you and the staff to treat this with the care that we expect.
You can do it.
I'm going to vote nay.
Okay. All right, so it's 3-2, motion passes. Thank you, everybody. All right, discussion topic E, which is 2026 council retreat.
Okay. Much more fun topic.
Yes.
Okay, so we are beginning to think about and plan the retreat, second annual retreat. Yes. This is just an initial conversation about thoughts, ideas, things that you might want to see happen in the retreat. Ashley is on with us, and I'll let her take it because I'm just rambling and not saying anything helpful.
You were doing great. As Regina said, this will be our second year for the retreat. You do guys have the agenda that we did last year. As if you guys will remember, we did a half part of the retreat with just the city council where you guys could discuss some topics that you guys were really pressing. And then the second half of the day was with the department heads where we focused on the priorities for FY27. We plan on doing something similar this year and having it facilitated again like we did last year. So tonight we're really just trying to get some initial feedback from the council to see if there's anything that you guys would like to specifically include in the agenda, what went well, what didn't go well, or anything that we need to address before we finalize the agenda. We will be working with our facilitator to put the agenda together again over the next couple weeks so that we can get that finalized, but that's what the discussion is for tonight.
Tim?
I think it's gonna be hard to top last year's retreat. Public Works facility came out of that.
And Meet Me on Main.
Yeah, and Meet Me on Main.
I remember throwing out that wild, crazy idea about shutting down Main Street.
Yeah,
There we go.
look how great that was.
Awesome.
Well, that was part of the second portion, which was the prioritization
Yeah.
piece. And so I think we would, that piece stays.
Yeah.
It's just not gonna have Public Works on it.
Right.
I mean, we could probably come up with something, but.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put a plug in for Retreat 2027, or 2028 at the Public Works.
At Public
facility.
Works building, yeah. I think that makes sense.
You know, actually, speaking for myself, I had a great time last year. I do really wish I remembered the one thing I wanted to change because it involved where staff was and where we were, and I can't put my fingers on it. So, you done jog memory? Yeah, I do. Worked pretty well last year, honestly. And if it was important to me, I would have written it down or put a note somewhere.
Or remembered.
or remembered it. Because, you know, I had all my retreat notes in my budget binder from last year, and I looked through that this afternoon before I left, and I said, well, so it's year 2. It's exciting.
Yeah, it is. Brian?
When do you need a final answer on that, Ashley? I'd like to have some discussions with especially some of the new members before I answer you.
Go ahead, Regina.
So in terms of the date, we are landing on Wednesday, June 3rd. Both the new council members are able to make that day. So this is just a very initial conversation about thoughts and ideas of what folks might want to see. Because we are going to have this facilitated, we will take the thoughts and we will work with the facilitator and come up with a more specific agenda, and we can bring that back to you folks, and that will likely be more like one of the 2 May meetings when the 2 new council members are in place to really kind of finalize things, if that makes sense.
Sure. To be clear, I wasn't asking about the date for the meeting. I was asking about the contents of the agenda.
Yeah.
So I think what I heard you say is May, the middle of May. Then I would have to give y'all my ideas by then.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We've had a significant amount of conversation about revenue. I would like to see some focus on that. I think it needs to be in the prioritization section. It's going to encompass not only prioritizing, but also concepts of what are we thinking? Like what avenues can we tap that we haven't tapped, that general piece. I also don't think that the council continues to stay focused on public engagement. And so any conversation about what that means from the council's perspective, even down to the nitty gritty about, what events, meeting people where they're at, do we want to make sure that we are at, discussions about front porch forum, like all of those, what are we doing to continue to keep the public engaged? And so that would be obviously our portion of the morning.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the 2 things that I have off the top of my head. Marcus?
I know I won't be sitting at this table on this side for that particular discussion, but I did yesterday have a discussion with Regina about this, because it's something I wanted to do, but I'll be there sitting as a member of the public, and hope that what the council with the administration talk about is kind of listing out, and as I described it to Regina yesterday, what are the amenities that we provide as a city to our constituents? And I say that from this standpoint. Put all the things that we do to provide for the public statutorily aside. That is not part of this discussion. And again, I'll throw this out, it's just an example. Plowing sidewalks, right? That particular effort has a particular value. And I think if we kind of lay out that list of what those things look like, because I think a conversation about revenue needs to happen, but if nothing else, it would really help inform the public a little bit, as well as, again, informing the council even more so on what those efforts are and what the value of that is. During the strategic planning, loud and clear, we want to keep our services in the city. That's what we heard. And I think to a certain extent that's still true, but we also continue to hear the argument around affordability, and it's not gotten any better. And it's not, you know, so much, 99.8 or 9% is not in our control. But that being said, maybe it's just an exercise to take a look at those things and then have a moment of evaluation, or at least the start of a conversation into, because I think if that kind of exercise waits until the budget, it'll be too late. I think you have to start that kind of dialogue early so that if you are to consider tweaks, depending on how the budget comes out for FY28, then at least you'll have some real clarity around those services and the value of those services so that informed decisions can be made about what you may or may not sacrifice in order to make those budgets work. Because, you know, while we got caught up on stormwater this year a bit, I don't know what the economy is going to look like here. We did not go into this budget cycle with an adjustment for the gas prices, right? So these things are going to impact our ability in the upcoming fiscal anyway. So what is that going to look like in the next? I don't know. But I think that kind of discussion at the retreat would, the start of that discussion would really be helpful in that dialogue. Anyway.
Yeah, I'll just add one thing. You mentioned, Amber, returning the focus to meeting residents where they are. And I think that includes when you have residents interested in forming a committee. That's a group of residents showing you where they are. And so I'm particularly interested, always have been, always will be, in economic development and a downtown organization, like anything we can do to support our business community and improve it. And there are citizens out there anxiously awaiting the ability to do something about it. So balancing that with the conversation we have frequently had about the capacity of the staff and the budget to handle the citizen energy that is coming, that is the easiest way for all of us, all of you, to meet the community where they are. Is if they're organizing to accomplish something, there they are, right there. So I would just really encourage you to follow that energy and embrace it and do what you can to let it keep building, and to be willing to entrust and empower citizen groups to do some work on behalf of the city that they love. They wouldn't be forming groups if they didn't believe in where they lived. So I really think that's a direction you should look and encourage.
Anything else? To be continued.
Regina, did you have anything? I want to ask only because you and the department heads were equally a part of that discussion.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we will definitely think through the prioritization piece and what that looks like. Other thoughts on my mind are that we didn't really talk about the budget much in the retreat itself. You know, we actually had that conversation in terms of like, what's the goal parameter that we were trying to hit separate from that. And I don't want to take that conversation too down into the weeds, so I don't know, can still think about whether that makes sense. But I think overall, kind of bigger picture resourcing, and if there are other things that we want to do, trying to figure out from the prioritization perspective how we get there and what we do. The prioritization piece is a little bit tough because we're working with a list of little teeny tiny things in the weeds and ginormous concepts. And so it's a little bit of a difficult list to actually prioritize. So Ashley and I are kind of thinking through that. The other thing that occurred to me today is that we will have 2 new council members of a board of 5. So we may want to do something that's just team building of some kind for the council itself, potentially. Yeah.
Wait, spruce up this space a little.
Great idea.
So, yeah.
Cool. Look forward to it.
Okay. Anything else that would be helpful, Ashley?
Nope, I think that'll get us taken care of to start working with the facilitator and get this moving forward. And we will have some more information for you guys at a later meeting.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
Ashley.
you.
All right, we are going to move on to what is now F, which is the recreation software contract. Mark, you can come up and join us. Not sure who wants to. I mean, we obviously have the memo in the packet. I don't know.
Yep, you've got the memo. So Mark can kind of just run through that for you, and then we have had a couple of questions, and so we can take those too.
Yeah, I have some talking points, if you don't mind.
Yep, go
I
ahead,
can
Mark.
run through them, and then if we have questions at the end, happy to answer them. So first, thanks for the opportunity. I know there were a lot of questions after we put the memo in the packet, and I got pulled to an agenda item, which is great. I think transparency on this is important, and I'm happy to be here to answer any questions. First thing I do want to start just by noting is that this is not a new challenge. This is something that has been we've been struggling with since the program launched, and that was late August of 2025. While the system works for basic registration, it has not met organizational expectations, especially with financial reporting, childcare payments, tracking, and modules like facility rentals, memberships, and ticketing. Staff has worked hard to make this functional, including weekly meetings with the company, and they've just been coming up with manual workarounds, basically from those meetings. Just to give you a sense of impact, we're spending around 10 hours per week, sometimes more, on tasks that should be fully automated. We've maintained accuracy through internal controls, but it's not efficient or sustainable. I also want to note that we have not pursued recovering costs from this vendor. Our focus has been working with them and trying to move forward. Through that process, it's become very clear, and the provider has acknowledged that this system cannot meet our daily expectations. Our current contract was set to end on May 1st, and the vendor has agreed to extend that service through the end of August to allow for a smooth transition. From a cost standpoint, the proposed system that we're looking at is $50,000 annually. Our goal is to cover that through a 1% fee to the users. If there's a remaining balance, that would come from the program fund. Also, there's a $15,000 startup and training fee, and that would also come from the program fund. Just to add context to that, the current system currently charges a 1.5% fee that's passed on to the users. They had proposed, as of May 1st, to go to a straight $40,000 annual fee. It was unclear to us if that 1.5 was going to be added to the 40,000 or not, but we are, based on all the information that I just provided you, we are set to move on to a new company. The recommendation in front of you is based on experience over the past several months and the need for a system that better supports operations for us to serve our community moving forward. Happy to answer any questions.
So Mark, George, who's sitting behind you, had a number of questions before you got here, but one question, I just want to be clear. So there is no impact to the general fund. This is, the anticipation is this is all coming out of the program fund.
Program fund or passed on to the users.
Okay.
Yes.
So George's questions were really, who's the current provider?
Yep. So the current provider is Kaizen.
Was there a bidding process for that particular contract? The current provider.
We vetted several different companies out there, but we're unique where we have a complex childcare program and recreation programs. There is not good software that does both. So the one that we are recommending, Rec Technologies, we have talked to several other rec departments they're similar to us, that have childcare programs, provide subsidy, do payment plans, and they give it thumbs
What did I miss, George?
Well, I'm not sure you're meeting your policy objectives on competitive bidding, so I guess I'll get a hold of Jess or somebody to get copies of what's occurred to figure out what we've done to look at all our options and low cost options, so we can go from there.
Did I miss any of your questions though, or do you think did you get them all?
I guess the only one question was how much did it cost us this year in FY '26 for our current
For the current contract, yeah.
Yeah, and so right now we're coming up in that contract, and it is close to about $30,000.
Again, out of program fund or general fund?
That was passed on to the users.
Okay, passed on
Yes.
to users, all right.
Because the memo mentioned something about the general fund, that's why I asked that question.
Yeah.
No. No, we are not looking for this to affect the general fund at all.
Okay.
Thank you for the clarification. Brian?
Yeah, Mark, did I basically understand you saying that you've determined you're going to ride out this summer with this vendor and you're going to look for another one for next summer?
It's about a 4 to 6 month process to onboard a new system. So we are planning to go live with a new system September 1. So we will get through with this system through the end of August, and then September 1-ish, launch a new system.
Fair enough. So I think the questions that I sent to you before the meeting then are therefore moot, right? Because these are questions about how to deal with this vendor and how to work with their system, and that doesn't matter because we're starting a new one.
Yeah, and we've tried workarounds. We've met with them on, like I said, every week we're on the phone and meeting, and it's difficult.
Thank you.
Yep.
Relationship is over. Mark?
Just for clarity, because I think maybe I got confused in reading some of these letters. So did this new vendor go through an RFP process?
No.
We did not do an RFP process with this.
So
Prior.
we had problems with this one vendor. We're moving on to a new vendor, but we didn't go through a bidding or an RFP or.
We met and interviewed several companies prior to this one with the rec department.
For the current one that we're talking
Correct,
about?
yes.
I'm not talking about the one right
Yes.
now. Okay.
Yes, we interviewed and went through several interview processes.
Okay. Okay.
Elaine, any questions?
Yeah, I'll just make a comment and a question. It does say in the memo that this particular vendor that you're looking at now seems to satisfy the requirements best, so you're taking a sole source approach then. So you,
Yes.
okay.
Yep.
So when you were making the choice for the previous vendor that you're departing from, like, what was
What
their
got us excited about them?
yeah, and then at what point, how early on in the relationship did you realize, like, this is not going to work, it's not satisfying our needs, and how come they weren't satisfying the needs that you surely made clear?
Sure. So when we met with them, one thing that got us excited was they were, and I'm hearing that there's other people that signed on about the time that we did that felt the same way, that it was exciting. They were going to kind of make this unique to us and work with us to meet our needs. So if we need special reports, if we want to do facility rentals, they can do this for us, and it sounded great. And they were showing us, and they were not able to meet those expectations. And pretty much close to day one, we've had those issues. And there's certain points, different aspects are supposed to be launched at different times. So we got the registration and childcare up and running. And then the next launch was supposed to be ticketing for the Halloween event. That didn't work out the way it was supposed to, so we had to do a workaround for that. And we still ran Halloween successfully, and everybody got through. We collected. It wasn't to the public. It wasn't a problem.
Right.
And and this, the software we're using now, great feedback from the public. It's a great user face, it's mobile friendly, but on our end and the back end, it's, people wouldn't know it.
So how are you going to prevent that with this vendor?
Yeah, so we've talked to several other communities that use them, that have a similar size as us and run childcare and programs. Childcare is a tricky one because of subsidy and payment plans, and they all spoke very highly. We've seen examples and copies of their reports. We feel pretty confident. And the girls in the office, Caitlin and Alyssa, who do a lot of that, they're very excited by what they're seeing and what they're hearing.
And do you think that this experience will require you to make changes to the way you approach future software acquisitions, or, I mean?
Well, I'm hoping we don't have to do it again. I'm hoping this is good. And so far, they've been, any questions that we've had, I understand the sales part of things, and, but it's been pretty good so far.
Thank you.
And they're also going to come to us for the onboarding. So the training, they're actually going to come and do in-person training.
Okay.
You mentioned earlier the fact that you're not going after the first provider for any compensation or anything. Is that because of the fact that you've got an agreement on this extension? Because it sounds like when you talk about expectations, I in having done some of these myself, these kinds of contracts, usually those expectations are usually contractual in some form.
Yeah.
And so it feels like if you had that expectation, that's something that we could go back to and say, hey, you didn't meet this, therefore we need to talk about some compensation of some
Yeah, and we have the contract for this extension and the contract for the new provider. It's currently being looked at by the city attorney.
Okay.
As well.
All right, appreciate that.
Any, Brian?
Follow up, one quick question.
Yep.
Sorry. I mean, it sounds like my question is also moot because you've already made a decision. But I'm actually having flashbacks to having worked on a childcare subsidy reimbursement for New Jersey in my software days. Have you thought about buying one system for childcare and one for Parks and Rec operations?
We have. We looked at that process and thought about it, but for us, it makes sense to have one system that can do everything. People are signing up for childcare, then they're signing up for baseball and other things. So for us, having one compatible system makes the most sense.
Thank you.
Yep.
As a former user, I would agree with that approach. A little less confusing, one-stop shopping.
And you have a lot of people that sign up, a lot of families that sign up for multiple programs for multiple kids.
Oh, yeah.
Pool passes and.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. All right, I'm going to open it up to public comment. George, do you have anything else, or?
I just guess one comment, because I raised this question last year about another contract. Brian made the comment that I hope we never have to do this again. I think that's something that we should have in our purchasing policy, at least something that dictates some routine review of our contracts and how long we keep them, so we're not using the same person 20 years without ever looking at a bill.
Any comments online? Not seeing any. Anybody want to take the motion?
I move that the city council authorize the city manager to enter into an agreement with Rec Technologies for recreation management software services, including a one-time cost of $15,000 and an annual fee of $50,000 effective September 1, 2026.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 No nays, that was unanimous.
Can I just ask one more question? Was there the group that we're going to, were they in play last year?
They were not.
Okay.
Good question. Thank you, Mark. Appreciate it.
Have a good night.
Thanks, Mark.
All right, so the next topic is an executive session, so we'll move on to the consent agenda.
I'll move we approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, it's unanimous. Council member comments and city manager report. Regina?
Just a thank you to everybody who worked at the polls yesterday, and thanks to all of the voters for coming out. Appreciate the support on the budget and the public works facility and many of the articles on the ballot.
Sorry, Amber.
What?
It was the president's salary was basically the only one that went down.
It is okay. It is okay. I am just glad to see that the budget passed and that the public works bond passed. That is by far the most important things, and I appreciate everyone that came out, and ditto to what Regina said.
Can I make a quick comment? So on the postmark article, I talked to so many people who did not understand what we were asking, even though we sent out the newsletter. The newsletter was clear. The article was completely not clear. And when the newsletter came out, the article language wasn't in the newsletter. So I had like a 45-minute conversation, like, so if I vote yes, what does that mean? like it was just
Opposite of whatever you
right.
did.
And so constant comments about couldn't we just have regular language on the ballot, which I know we have to word the articles in a way that makes the positive vote be the outcome, however that works. But we have to do a better job. Like, could we do a chart that says, if you vote yes, this is what happens. If you vote no, this is what will happen. Like, that simple. Like, bring it down to a second grade level so that everybody possibly who needs help with it can understand it.
Well, even sitting in this seat, I remember reading it 3 or 4 times before making my decision to make sure I read it right.
Right.
Yeah.
What am I voting
Along the
for?
lines of,
Yeah.
I know what this is about, but this verbiage sounds a little different than I recall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And people, I think, approach ballot articles with like consequences. What happens if I vote yes? What happens if I vote no? It's not so much the how we're gonna get there in the language, it's like just what happens if we do this?
Yeah.
So, if we could somehow, and that's every year this comes up, so.
I don't think this is the last time we're gonna see that particular ballot item. That's my thoughts, but maybe in a different iteration.
Well, because maybe people thought that if they voted yes, we were
Right.
gonna keep the postmark.
Right, exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's why it passed so well.
100%.
Yeah. Because when we did it in the community, we did it in the
Yeah.
Maple,
Yeah.
When we were in the
at
open
Maple
house, yeah.
Street,
Yeah.
it was 75% no.
Yeah.
So I
Yep.
just think the language was awkward.
I think that's a valid point for sure. Yeah.
So I will just acknowledge and say, I'm personally disappointed because I do love sitting at this table with all of you and would love to have done it for 3 more years. But I'm also proud of the democracy we have and the way that this process works, giving residents the ability to determine the type of representation they want. They expressed that yesterday, and I couldn't be happier and prouder that this community continues to lead that. And let me just acknowledge, I couldn't be more jazzed about having Bethany join this particular body, to have that different point of view, to have that other insight, that other experience that will be brought to this particular table. I'm pumped by it, and I appreciate all the comments from everybody around this table, and I appreciate the comments from supporters. Look, the universe is going to be fine. This is all going to be fine. I know that you all have Essex Junction's best interests at heart, and you're working your damnedest to make this just the best damn place, and I still believe that it is. That's why I'm not going anywhere. I will be trying to compete with Race's attendance record the best I can. And, you know, I look forward to continuing to be around here in these conversations, and hey, who knows? You might see me in another race. I guarantee you will. It'll be good. It'll be good. So thank you all.
Anybody else? All right, somebody want to read the motion for the executive session?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I know. I was gonna say motion to adjourn, but sorry.
I move that the city council make the specific finding that premature disclosure of the confidential attorney-client communications regarding a probable litigation would place the city at a substantial disadvantage.
I'll second.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Squirrel. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, it's unanimous. We are,
Yeah, you want me to get
oh,
the
yeah, the
motion on
second,
it?
sorry, I closed my thing, so, yeah.
I'll also move that the city council enter into executive session to discuss confidential attorney-client communications regarding probable litigation pursuant to 1 VSA 313A1E and 1 VSA 313A1F to include the city council and city manager.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. We will not be coming back out of executive session, so you all can go and enjoy the rest of your evening.